Are you ready to take your card making to the next level? Today I'm going to share with you 5 ways to add color to your white, boring die cut pieces. Hi, I'm Christina. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you 5 ways that you can add color to your die cuts when you just die cut with white cardstock. It is so much fun and so easy to do, and you probably have the supplies already on hand. We're going to start with one of the easiest ways, and that's just using ink. For our first technique, I went ahead and did all of my die cutting in advance. I have some floral pieces that I die cut here, and I left them right into the cardstock that I die cut them on and just added some low-tack tape to the back, or if you have a grip mat, you can put it on there, then hold everything in place. And then I also use some nesting dies. We're going to come back to the nesting dies in a minute. We're going to start off with our floral pieces. Now I pulled out some blending brushes, and then I also pulled out some of my little detailed blending brushes as well. So for this one, I'm going to use my detailed blending brushes because we're using smaller images, and I pulled out enough to do with different colors. So I'm going to start off with avocado, and I am just going to take my blending brush, tap it into the ink, and then dab it onto my mat here just to get some of that ink off because I don't want it to be super dark. And I'm going to just start by blending that color onto that image. So because I want to go pretty light, I am just starting off and then blending into my die cut piece. I'm going to use the little bit of the ink that's on my mat here and then start going in with my other piece right here. Again, I'm starting off and then blending into my die cut piece. So this way I don't have any really harsh edges or have come in a little too dark in any particular area. This just helps keep things a little bit more even for me, and then I don't have darker sections. What I love about inking up cardstock is that if I don't have a particular color in cardstock, I can create my color by using my ink pads. Now, I recently did a video all about different ways to get more out of your ink pads. I will link that at the very end of this video or in the description below, and then you can go and check that out. And this is one of those techniques that could have been in that video, but I wanted to share it in this one today. So I am just going to move on from this particular color, and we're going to bring out another color. I think I'm going to go in with this pretty pink color, and I'm just going to clean up that green color so I don't accidentally transfer it onto my next image. And I'm just going to grab a brush again, and for this one I'm not going to color the whole image. I'm going to start in the center and then blend my way out, and I want to leave a little bit of white edges on it. So I'm just starting in the center and blending out. Again, we can pick up more color as we go, and this color is pretty light so it's kind of hard to see, but we're going to just blend on out. And what I like about this is it pulls in some of the detail of that die piece, because this die piece has a couple little details in it that you normally wouldn't see on white cardstock, but as you blend that color out, you're definitely going to pick that up. And I like to go both directions so that we can make sure any of those edges from the detail is getting picked up on both sides. So I'm just going to come in with a little bit more ink, and we can blend that right out. And then of course we can come in with another color and ink up our other flower as well. So we can either do it as a solid color, or we can do it just blending from the center and on our way out to the middle. So, or from the center on our way out to the ends. But for this one, I'm going to actually do this in a couple different ways. You can do a little bit of both. We're going to do a solid and a one that's not completely blended, because these flowers are great, especially this set is great for layering, so you can get a couple layers on your flowers and you're not just having a flat flower, which is it's kind of nice. So for my bigger one, I'm going to start in the center and tap off just a little bit, and then I'm going to pull that color out. Now I can also just take my blender and just shade up and down just like so, and we can get some nice color that way too. So I don't want to fully cover this one. I just want to get it towards the edge without completely covering it. So we're kind of going darker and into a lighter tone as we move our way out. So that is a fun way to do it. And we'll come back to this. I'm going to let these colors kind of blend together. When you're using the different types of dye bastings, give it some time, it'll dry back and become nice and smooth. Another way we can use our ink pads with our die cuts is with our nesting dies. And I love this. This was kind of fun. And I actually made a card with this, and I'll show you in a little bit. But what I did was I took my nesting dies, I took a larger circle die and a smaller circle die and created the frame. I cut them both at the same time. And then I took our larger die and die cut that only and didn't do the smaller one. So we have a solid piece, and then we created a frame that can go over the top of it. But I'm going to bring in some of my inks here. I'm going to pull in maybe my yellow color, and we're going to blend that onto this piece of white cardstock that we cut out in the full circle. So this would be our solid circle cut. And I'm just blending this in. And then I can come in with another color if I would like. So let's come in with this pretty pink color. Making sure I dab this off someplace where the yellow is not, because I didn't clean my surface off before I moved into my next color. So you can pick up some of that color here, and we can just keep blending in. This pink is very light when it's blending, so we could just blend in a little bit more, and we can even come in with a third color. So I could come in with the avocado, but I think I'm going to come in with this other color here. It's a little bit more of an oranger tone. And for this one, I definitely have to dab it off because it's a pretty dark color. So we want to be nice and light with this one. And then if we just take our frame that we die cut and put it right over the top, so we have a nice little layer that way, we can add some acetate behind that frame, put some foam tape, and then we have a nice little shaker element that we can add to our card. There's so many different things that you can do with this. So that was blending with ink, and we have our piece right here that we made into with the nesting dies, and you could do that with any of your nesting dies. Then we have our pieces that we did with our cardstock with our flowers, and this one has the low tack tape on it, so I'm just going to peel that low tack tape off. I can set that aside and reuse it if I want to do any more flowers. You're just going to pop out our images here. And one thing I've learned is if I kind of give everything just a little bit of a wiggle, it's easier to pop all of those pieces out. And you'll see it a lot with this one right here. These generally just pop out pretty easy, but this is a nice delicate one. And I learned that if you just kind of shake things back and forth, you can get those pieces out a lot easier, and then you have less chance of tearing. Then we have that really pretty flower or pretty leaf pattern there. So we have all these pretty little elements that we can add to a card just using my cardstock and ink. We're going to be using this little floral image that I started with over a couple of times. So you'll see this quite a few times, but I wanted to show you different ways that you can use some of your supplies using the same die set. So we're going to be playing with our alcohol markers today, and I just pulled out a couple Ola markers. I wasn't 100% sure which ones I wanted to use, so I just pulled out a couple of these. But if you have Copic, if you have the Ohuhu, any kind of alcohol marker, that is definitely a great option for adding color to your die cuts. So I'm just starting off with my floral pieces, and let's do this one first. And I'm just going to be messy about it. I'm just going to layer that ink right onto that die cut piece. And we can just let it dry. If I would like to come back, I can come back and even add a darker shading if I wanted to. If you're great at blending your alcohol markers, which I'm not, but I do like to come back and just add a little bit of detail. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to come back with this pen so that we are only using one color, and you'll see how you can add different layers to build up some color. And this is just our little leaf that we are playing with too. Oop, that one came right out of the, should have stuck my removable tape in there. So we're just going to set that one aside. And then we'll come in with like this pink color, and we'll do pink since that's what we did on our other ones. So I'm going to do, just for this one, I am going to kind of come in from the center and flick that color out. I'm not going to go right out to the edges. However, you definitely can fill in the entire image with your color. Again, do your shading with your alcohol markers. So I am just liking to messily come in, especially with something as detailed as this, just coming in with my color and just spreading it out. And since we have one done, let's go ahead and with our yellow color. And I might need to use a little bit of a darker color. I did pull one out, but let's just see how this looks. So we'll actually do this one with a full coverage, just like we did on the other one. So we'll do full coverage on our two smaller ones. And then we're going to come in with our larger one and do just some flicking of the color from the inside out, leaving our ends to be white. And what I like about the flicking is it kind of blends everything in nicely. So we're going to do just like that. And now I'm going to come back with that green color. And just to show you how you can build up some of the coloring, I'm not going to color in both sides. I'll just color in one side so you can see how you can add color to this. So this side seems to be kind of lighter than this side is a little bit darker over on this side. So I'm just going to come in with that color, just add a little bit of detail to this. We're just gonna add some shading. I'm not gonna blend anything out. And just to show you what it looks like. As a matter of fact, that's all I'll do. I'll just leave the blending on those two sides. I'm going to clean up this mess. We'll come back after this dries a little bit and the color starts to settle, show you what it looks like. I'm just popping out these ones that I've already done with my Copic markers. So we have this little pretty pink, and these can be layered on top of each other. And as a matter of fact, they have holes in it that you can add a little brad or just put an enamel dot in the middle. So we're just going to pop these out, and we have our 3 layers to this flower. And then again, I'm just going to do my little wiggle back and forth, and that helps get everything kind of popped out of there. Less chance of tearing, especially when your ink might still be wet. So you can see on this one how with one pen, I was able to make a little bit of a darker shadowing on my piece here without having to do tons of blending, especially something this small. Okay, I have another set of my flowers die cut, and on this one I die cut it on watercolor paper. I'm going to be coming in with a watercolor brush. This is a refillable brush, but I don't have any water in it. I'm just going to spray some water onto my glass mat and we'll go from there. And then I have 3 watercolor pencils, but if you have pastels or any kind of palette, definitely use that, but it's all pretty much the same. I like using the watercolor pencils. They're pretty easy for me to use, especially when I'm not very good at watercoloring. This makes me feel good. All right, I'm gonna just spray some water onto my desk. So I have a little puddle of water here, which you probably cannot see. And we are going to start off with doing this first with going directly from our crayon or our pencil to our die cut image. So I'm just going to layer on some of this pencil. I'm going to come in with a little bit of water. I just have a napkin to the side here that I'm just tapping off some of that water so I don't have a lot of it on my brush. But I'm just going to blend this color out. How easy is that to create just a watercolor look to your images? The other way I could do this is dipping my brush into my water and then picking that color up right from the pencil. And then we can go in and add that color in just like we would if we colored it and then blended it out. Now, one thing I like about this method is I feel like I have a little bit more control of my color. I feel like the color goes on a little bit darker, but it would definitely depend on, you know, what you're using and how good you are with watercoloring. So I am a very beginner at watercoloring when it comes to, you know, playing with watercolors. This is like something that I wish I had the talent and the patience to do, but I don't. So I like to faux watercolor, and that is by doing the techniques that I'm sharing with you today. So I am just going to leave that one as is. I'm going to come in with my pink one, and we are going to do the same thing that we've done with our other ones. For this one, I'm just going to lay that color in the center. And then you can see how it picks up some of that detail of that die cut. Again, just coming in with my watercolor pen, and I am going to blend that color out. It's going to be a little bit hard to see on camera probably because it is such a light color, but it is such a pretty color. Now, one thing I can do is, again, just bring that pencil back in, pick up that color right from the pencil, and I could blend that way as well. But this color definitely is very light colored. And then I could just actually build this color up. If you let it dry for a few minutes in between, we can build that color up. So you can see I'm getting a little bit darker as I build the color. So we're just, this time, I'm going to come right from here and we'll build that color that way. It's a little bit easier to get a darker color when we're coming from the brush and we don't already have water on our watercolor paper. And since I've been doing all of them with my technique of for the 3 colors, we might as well just go ahead and do the yellow as well. Now this one might be pretty dark. We'll see how this one comes out. Yeah, it's a lot brighter. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to most of the dark color in the center and then pull out to the edges, leaving some of the edges to be not quite as dark, but also have those white tips on our petals. Okay, and then we just have to go ahead and pop all of these out of our cardstock. They're still a little bit wet since I just got done painting them, so they're going to be a little softer to pull out. This one I did first, so and watercolor cardstock can be pretty thick, so you can see we can blend these or wiggle this around and we'll be able to get these out of here without tearing it from the cardstock. Watercolors, so much fun. Don't forget your pencils. You can have watercolor pencils, watercolor palettes, whatever you have. They definitely are great things to use for watercoloring your die cuts. Another way to add color to your dies is with some scrap pattern paper, and it's a great way to use up your scrap papers. So I'm going to grab just a couple pieces and I'm going to set them up on my die cutting plates here. I have this green pattern for my leaves, and I'm going to grab maybe this yellow one for this one, and then we can do our pink one. So we're staying with our same theme that we've been doing for the whole video. I'm just going to cut this piece down and we'll set it on here, and I'll run these through my die cutter. And there we go. We created some pretty patterned floral pieces just by die cutting our images with pattern paper. So there we go. We can create some fun patterns with using pattern paper. But another thing we could do is we can bring in our ink just like we did with our original project or technique here. But this one I'm just going to blend on the outside and add the color to the tips of our flower here. You can add that on a smaller one, larger one, and I'm just adding that ink right to the edges. Just like so. And we've given this even a little bit more of dimension by adding the ink to the edge. So you can't go wrong with your pattern paper scraps and using them to die cut. And our last technique is with this white cardstock tag. And I pulled out my splatter box. This is for when you're spraying. You don't want to spray it all over your desk, and many times I have. But this one is going to keep it just so it's kind of contained inside the box. So I'm just going to push this back a little bit. I did add a piece of paper toweling just to help protect my surface a little bit more in the front here, especially because I do splatter everywhere. And for this one, I'm going to use Distress Oxide Spray. We're just going to give that a good shake. And I'm going to do a full coverage of the tag. And I love the way this looks. Makes a really pretty tag. We'll just give it a little bit more spritz here. I don't want to do spray too much because I don't want my tag to wrinkle up, because it is definitely not a watercolor paper. So we even have so much on here, it even filled in the dots at the bottom. So I'm just going to tap some of that off and set that aside to dry. And while we have our sprays out, I'm just going to take some of my mica stains and do some flicking of color. So all I'm doing is taking the cap off and flicking that color just by tapping it with my finger onto the tag. And of course, we can also then take another color and give this a good shake, and we can do some spritzing. And I'm gonna just not fully pull down all the way on the trigger, but I'm just gonna kind of give it a little spritz just like this. And it's only squirting out a little bit at a time, and that gives it a nice look too. So I love this blue and silver together. So gorgeous. I'm going to set this aside to let it dry. I love this tag. The blue and silver came out so pretty that I used it in a card, and I'll show you that in a second. And then I have this full coverage, but don't forget, with your distress oxides or your distress inks, you can blend it with different colors. We can maybe have spritzed a little bit with this coral color, and then maybe used another like different color to go with it. So there are so many different ways you can add color to the tags with your sprays and inks. Let's go over what we did today on how to add ink and color to our die cuts. So for this particular set here, we did it with ink pads and did some blending of colors onto our floral pieces, but then also use some nesting dies to create fun backgrounds with frames as well. And there's so many different things you could do with so many different types of your dies. It's absolutely amazing. I was even thinking for this one, it'd be great to run it through an embossing folder, even do a background stamp on it with some embossing powder. Or even add foil with better press plates. The other one that we did today was with our alcohol markers. So you can use your Copics, your Olos, your Ohuhus, or whatever type of alcohol marker you have. And even not just creating just a single layer, but also adding some dimension by stacking up or adding on to your colors, so you can create some real fun blending. Another way was with our watercolors. For this one, we use watercolor pencils, but if you have palettes or anything like that, you can definitely create some really pretty watercolor die cut pieces for your florals, for your critters, for whatever kind of die cutting that you're working on. Our last one is going to be with our pattern paper. So not only did we create some fun embellishments for our cards, but we also used up some scraps and then incorporated even inking that to create even more dimension to our die cuts. Last but not least is adding color using sprays. For the first one, I created a solid color tag just using Distress Oxide ink, but you could actually add to this and create some fun backgrounds by layering up different color sprays. And then this one, we did a flicking technique and adding splatter to the tag. But just think of all the different dies that you have and all the ways that you can add some fun color to your projects. And I was so inspired by all of these, I did go ahead and create a card. For this, I used the inked version, which is the inked flowers with the background. I used the splattered tag, and then I also stamped a sentiment in the middle, did some embossing folder, added a bow to my tag, and then I have a finished card. And I really love the way this came out. It was a little hard because I did go with a blue color for here, but adding the blue layer to the background with the blue splatter, and then I put in a blue brad for one of my flowers to kind of bring that blue all together. I hope you enjoyed today's video and found it inspirational, and you found some fun ways that you can add color to just die cutting on white cardstock. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.